Johnny Depp's visit to Folly Wildlife Rescue was one of those rare celebrity moments that didn't feel crafted, rehearsed, or meant for cameras. It began as a simple private stop, a quiet detour far away from the buzz of fame, and ended as one of the most quietly meaningful stories in recent celebrity memory. What most people saw was a warm photograph of a global superstar cradling a tiny orphan badger cub. But behind that viral image was a deeper, unexpected truth, a heartfelt moment of realization that left Johnny genuinely stunned, humbled, and, as staff members later shared, emotionally moved in a way few had ever seen from him. This wasn't a glossy Hollywood set or a red carpet appearance. It wasn't even a major charity gala. It took place in June 2022, not in October 2025 as internet rumors once misreported, in a modest rescue sanctuary tucked in the quiet countryside of Tunbridge Wells, England. At the time, Johnny was fresh from one of the most intense public battles of his life, stepping back into the world after a headline-making trial. He had been touring the UK with his beloved friend, the late guitar legend Jeff Beck, trying to breathe again, to reconnect with creativity, with life, with small joys after months of global scrutiny. It was Jeff's wife, Sandra Beck, an existing patron of Folly Wildlife Rescue, who brought Johnny there. No media coordination. No entourage flashing cameras. Just curiosity and kindness. The sanctuary itself isn't glamorous, far from it. It sits in a plain building surrounded by forest, smelling not of perfume or movie set makeup powder, but of disinfectant, medical equipment, hay, and earth. It is a place of sweat, compassion, and tireless effort, not fame. Here, every day, volunteers battle for lives that cannot speak for themselves, hedgehogs broken by car tires, owls rescued from wire traps, foxes starving after losing their dens, tiny baby birds fallen from nests. Over 3,500 wild animals each year. No spotlight, no applause, just life-saving work around the clock. When Johnny walked inside, people froze. Imagine expecting routine emergency tasks, syringe feeding a tiny bird, checking a hedgehog's heartbeat, and suddenly seeing one of the most recognizable faces in the world standing quietly in the doorway. But the most striking thing wasn't that he arrived, it was how he arrived. He did not walk in like a celebrity. He drifted in like someone genuinely curious to understand, to learn, to help. His hat pulled low, layered bracelets clinking softly when he moved, denim worn with life, not style. Fame fell away the moment he crossed the threshold, and what remained was simply a man with a soft voice, gentle hands, and eyes that paid attention. He leaned in, asked questions, and listened with genuine interest. Every injured creature, every cage, every incubator mattered to him. Volunteers explained the delicate, painstaking process of bringing a desperately ill wild animal back to life, the hours of warmth, the tube feeding, the meds, the sleepless nights. And then came the moment, the one that staff later smiled about, not mocking him, but cherishing his innocence. Johnny heard strange chattering inside one incubator and looked up with sincere confusion. "Are those monkeys?" he asked quietly. The staff laughed softly, not at him, but in that sweet, human moment when someone learns something new, and they explained those sounds belonged to baby badger cubs. To him, that tiny misunderstanding wasn't embarrassing, it was eye-opening. The world inside that sanctuary was far richer, more delicate, and more intense than he ever imagined. In that instant, the reality of the sanctuary's fight, the fragile heartbeat of wildlife survival, hit him. He paused, absorbing the magnitude of what these volunteers do daily with almost no funding, no help from government programs, and nothing but compassion as fuel. For a second, he said nothing. Staff remember the look, quiet awe, a slight widening of the eyes, like someone realizing the world holds more battles than they ever knew. It was that moment, not a scandal, not a headline shock, that moved him to silence. A secret revealed not in drama, but in the tiny heartbeat of a helpless animal. And then came the now famous moment, the one the internet fell in love with. The staff, sensing his authenticity, gently placed into his hands a tiny badger cub named Freddie, after Freddie Mercury. The photograph that followed wasn't staged. Johnny didn't pose. He simply held the cub like it was a fragile jewel. In that frame, soft eyes, gentle hands, a newborn creature trusting him, people around the world saw something real. Not Captain Jack Sparrow. Not the Hollywood icon. Just a man connecting with a life that needed kindness. What followed online was explosive. Folly Wildlife Rescue went from being a small local charity to being recognized worldwide. Their social media jumped from 6,000 followers to over 30,000 in 2 days. Donations poured in. The sanctuary posted the picture with disbelief, saying, "No, you're not seeing things, that is the real Johnny Depp." And the world listened. He later donated a signed postcard that raised nearly £4,800, money that kept animals alive. And he didn't stop there. He said yes when asked to become a patron. Not temporarily, truly, emotionally committed. But here's the bittersweet part, the one few talk about. Even with all that attention, the sanctuary is fighting for its life today. Rising costs, more injured wildlife, and a world that forgets too quickly have pushed Folly to the edge of closure. The miracle boost faded. Reality returned. And now the place that once inspired one of Hollywood's most emotional moments faces financial collapse, unless help comes again. Johnny Depp's visit wasn't a publicity stunt. His eyes softened, his heart reacted, his voice went gentle. Because this wasn't about fame, it was about something he has always quietly stood for, the voiceless, the fragile, the forgotten ones. He has spent decades visiting sick children in hospitals, helping grassroots charities, donating silently without fanfare, and using his art to lift others. The Folly moment fit right into that pattern, quiet goodness, no spotlight needed. The secret that stunned Johnny that day wasn't scandal or drama. It was the revelation that everyday heroes are fighting a war most of us never see, a war to save lives too small for headlines. A war fought with donations instead of budgets, care instead of applause, sleepless nights instead of fame. And as Folly Wildlife Rescue continues its struggle, Johnny's visit remains a symbol, heartwarming and heartbreakingly urgent at the same time. The sanctuary needs another miracle. And maybe, just maybe, his moment of wonder in that quiet little building wasn't the end of the story, but the beginning of one that still has the power to save lives. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and if stories like this move you, support wildlife rescues in your area. The smallest creatures often need the biggest hearts.